While Pratasevich is the most high-profile journalist detained in Belarus, he's hardly the only one the government is trying to silence. It's part of the crackdown authorized by the country's leader, Alexander Lukashenko. The arrests are now causing concern for reporters in neighboring countries, with fears that it could spread worldwide. Alexey Kovalev wrote a New York Times opinion piece examining this, and he joins me now from Moscow. Alexey is the investigative editor for Meduza, that is an independent news outlet in Russia. Alexey, tell me what is happening to the journalists that you know in Belarus?
Well, hi, Anne-Marie. Thank you for having me. That Pratasevich video is extremely hard to watch. I mean, I'm a jaded reporter with over 20 years experience, but I just couldn't bring myself to it. I was relieved that it wasn't my news shift yesterday, because next time I think it could be someone I know. I mean, that's just what's happening in Belarus right now. And this video is not even intended to convince anybody that there was indeed a plot against Alexander Lukashenko, but to further intimidate and demoralize the opposition. Well, the headline of my New York Times piece really says it all. I mean, there is no other way to put it. Every single person I know I worked with is in jail or exiled, and that's just the people I can name without causing any further harm to them. And well, that's it. I mean, if it goes like this at this pace, there won't be any reporting coming out of Belarus.
Yeah, I think it's the op-ed is really, really important because though the eyes of the world were sort of on Belarus last month because of this forced, landing of a commercial plane, the reality of it is that many journalists had already been jailed or forced to sort of be silent long before this incident. And you say, listen, the whole world should be concerned about this crackdown, not just Belarus. Why is your concern not just for Belarus, but for also the other neighboring countries and other countries?
Well, because Belarus and Russia are in a union. It's a pretty obscure one, but we are sharing a judicial system, and our law enforcement agencies are in contact, like in a union state. So if you're, for example, a Belarusian oppositionist considering a travel itinerary that goes above Russia, you should be concerned too, because there is no reason to think that the Russian authorities won't give you over to the Belarusian colleagues, and it's quite an alarming thought. Frankly, I'm writing about this last year when the protests happened in Belarus against the sham election that again installed Alexander Lukashenko as a sixth-term president. I think it doesn't really matter at this point. The crackdown was so bloody and brutal that in Russia we were used to police violently dispersing any opposition rallies. And we thought, but at least we're not in Belarus. But now we're not really that far behind. I mean, Lukashenko has just officially outlawed any reporting from from unauthorized rallies. That is, all of them. And in Russia, it's just it's the legal cost of reporting that's frankly unaffordable for many independent outlets like ours, because in order to cover a protest rally, you have to have an in-house lawyer to deal with the fallout, because the police will be knocking on your door and demanding to see your credentials and declaring them illegitimate, even if you are wearing the full, state-mandated regalia, like high visibility vests and all the paperwork. But none of that matters. And in a few months, it could be that one of the very important countries in Central Europe that kind of buffers Russia from Western Europe could be this completely lawless information black hole, because no independent reporters are allowed to work there. It's just the Russian and Belarusian state media that will be the only sources of information coming out of it. And believe me, terrible things are happening and when no one's watching.
Yeah. Like you bring up a really good point about the tactics that are being used, that, it's not as simple as kind of walking into a newsroom and arresting everyone, right? Sometimes it's other ways that you can stifle the media and press voices and critics' voices, whether it's burying them in legal costs so they can't do the work, or sort of finding flimsy ways to recategorize them under the law so that it becomes legitimate to go after them and call the behavior and activity illegal. And Russia's Ministry of Justice recently deemed your publication a foreign agent. So then what does that mean for you? What's the significance of this move, and how does it affect operations?
We actually contested the designation in court today, and the judge asked the Justice Ministry to present any evidence that they used to justify our designation as a foreign agent. The Justice Ministry couldn't produce any evidence at all, and still the decision stood. We're still a foreign agent, despite there is no credible evidence to that effect. But it doesn't matter. It wasn't really about any credible evidence, because the only point is to slowly drive ourselves out of the market. Because by this designation, what it means, it seems pretty innocuous if you listen to the Russian government official. We are just mandated by the law to preface every message on our website and even on our social media to preface it with a legal disclaimer. It's a really long legalese passage. It takes up almost an entire tweet. So, for example, our Twitter feed is all but unusable to all of our 1.3 million subscribers. So there's just this legal disclaimer in every tweet. And of course, it goes on every material that goes out what they put out on the website, including advertisement. And of course, we lost 90% of all of our advertisement contracts overnight because, of course, no company wants to see these huge embarrassing legal disclaimer on top of their promotion materials. And that was the point, of course, of this designation.
Well, I suppose if there's one kind of a good thing, if there's a silver lining when it comes to, Belarus forcing a commercial plane to land and making this arrest, is suddenly the rest of the world is paying attention to what's going on there. And perhaps that will ultimately help. I appreciate you joining us this morning. Alexey, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.